Hey guys, it's another one of those videos where that's not supposed to happen, is it? Well, I guess this one's a little different. It's still absolutely crazy, but I'm not sure if what's happening here is awesome or terrible. But I can't make this stuff up. I'm not lying. But I had Ron from Yoda Connectors over here the other day, and we're wiring up some new ignition coils in the Supra here, GM coils. And this is a 1JZ, so it's a straight 6. Keep in mind, 6. And we got everything hooked up, and the car didn't start. It would start for about a second, just and then it would die. And we did some troubleshooting, and come to find out, the car needs 7 ignition coils to run. Not 5, not 6, not 6.5, but 7. Why are you laughing? It needs 7 ignition coils to run, and I'm not kidding. In this video, I'm just going to show you the absurdity of this, but actually over on Garage Life, I'm going to have a full tutorial on how to do the ignition coil upgrade that we did. But for this video, I'm just going to show you the absurdity of what is going on. So I'll start the car with only 6 ignition coils hooked up. I'll show you what happens, and then I'll plug in the 7th and show you what happens. Here are the GM coils that we have hooked up. It's not 100% buttoned up yet. We're not totally finished with the install, but we're at the point to where we can turn the car on. So here's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and back here is number 6. So I have 6 coils hooked up, and I'll show you what happens when I try to start this car. Okay, so that's all that happens with 6 coils plugged in. It just fires for half a second and then it dies, no matter what you do. So let's plug in the 7th coil and see what happens. Here's coil number 7. Plug this in to the factory Toyota wiring. And there isn't any place on the head to install said coil. So we're choosing this really scientifically chosen spot right here on the strut tower to ground it. And now I will turn the car on. All right, 7 coils, 6 cylinders. I'm gonna laugh when it doesn't start. Shut your face. So, there you go. I wasn't kidding. Wasn't clickbait. What I said on the Facebook post the other day was real. It takes 7 ignition coils to run. Now how? How is this possible? Well, let me explain. Your head might explode, but let me explain. So, this will be in further detail on how to do all this in the video on Garage Life on doing this ignition upgrade. But basically, the whole ignition system, there's 3 main things. The ECU, then the igniter, and then the coils. The ECU sends a low voltage signal to the igniter for each coil. Then the igniter sends a high voltage signal for each coil to each coil. So there's 6 inputs to the igniter, 6 outputs. And they each fire individually because this is a 1JZ GTE. So every single coil fires at a different time, so there's 6 different outputs. So, for example, if cylinder 1 fires, the ECU sends a low voltage signal to the igniter, then the igniter sends a high voltage signal to the coil. And when the igniter senses the voltage drop in the igniter, because it's sending the power, it sends a signal back to the ECU to say, hey, we just fired it, let's fire the next one. So the ECU needs a success signal before it can fire the 2nd time and the 3rd time and so on. So when we upgraded to these GM coils, they pretty much eliminate the igniter theoretically. So you can take the low voltage signal right from the ECU and go right to the coil, instead of having to go to the igniter. So the low voltage signal goes from the ECU to the GM coil, and then those are hooked up to constant power and ground. So the ECU is triggering the coil, but since there's no igniter, it doesn't have a success signal, so it can't tell the ECU to fire the next one and the next one and the next one. So what I came up with, and what Ron from Yoda Connectors wired up for me, was we took the factory harness for the factory coils, bundled all 6 together, so we had all 6 powers and all 6 grounds into 1 power and 1 ground to 1 coil, which is what we have right here. So since it fires individually, the ECU and the igniter are sending pulses to that coil, and it's getting a success signal. So because we have that coil, the ECU thinks that all 6 coils are firing. Pretty ridiculous, but it works. The only other way to do this is to have a standalone computer, which I don't have. So we may or may not be the first ones to do this upgrade on the factory ECU. First one that I know of, and it's pretty crazy. So now my car needs 7 ignition coils to run. Pretty ridiculous, but it should be pretty awesome, and it's definitely an upgrade over the factory coils. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Not really a whole much to learn from here. Maybe you did learn something, but in any case, I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you go over to Garage Life and subscribe so you can see the full detailed video on how to do this, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.